So, Sam, before we get started with today's episode, I have to note that I have to pay tribute on the pod to my late friend Gilbert Gottfried. I worked on his podcast for 3 years. I been in studio with him for hours and hours. Through him, I met some pretty cool people. I mean, he was in LA and I was in New York, but I was talking over the line to Jason Alexander, who, I'm literally wearing a Seinfeld tank top right now. So Gilbert facilitated that. So Sam, I would talk about him. He's an original. There was no one who had his humor and his soul.
Absolutely. Definitely has one of the best versions of the aristocrats joke that I've ever heard. I think that was the first Gilbert Gottfried thing that I saw post
He
being
told
a
it
child and hearing him at
uh,
Aladdin.
Yeah, he told it a week after 9/11.
Exactly. That's part of the reason it's so good.
Right after his joke, which the famous 9/11 joke was, I was on my way to Florida, but I had to take a pit stop at the Empire State Building. I mean, he said that a week after 9/11.
Brutal. No, he definitely was
a fearless
no
individual.
holds barred. Yeah. No, absolutely. And obviously, he also has a little obscure note here, but he has one of the best episodes of Celebrity Wife Swap out there. He swaps wives with, kind of sounds weird to say that, but it's a TV show. It's not real, so it doesn't matter. But he swaps wives with Alan Thicke, and the sitcom actor. And Alan Thicke lives like an oil baron in he lives in Santa Barbara on acres of land. He has horses. He has this gilded home, whereas Gilbert Gottfried lives in an old Jewish man apartment in Manhattan and hangs out with Richard Belzer all day. And Alan Thicke's wife, who, sorry, sexism showing here, I can't remember her name, but she is miserable at Gilbert Gottfried's house. And he's walking her around. They're he won't even spring for the cab and stuff like that in Manhattan. She's not used to this at all.
Okay, I watched the live stream of his funeral, and it frequently was mentioned how cheap he was. His penchant for hoarding hotel soaps. One of the jokes was literally his children's inheritance is hotel soap.
No, it's a great episode. Highly recommend it.
Of celebrity wife swap,
absolutely.
Cool. And I worked on the podcast, Gilbert Gottfried's amazing colossal podcast, hundreds, 600 episodes. It's genuinely, and I'm like a fucking snob about this stuff, genuinely incredible show if you're into movies and Hollywood. And the last thing Gilbert said on the last episode literally was, and she's the only person in Hollywood who hasn't seen Milton Berle's dick. Last recorded thing he said.
And you were there for it.
And I was honored to be in studio for the final thing he ever made, the final broadcast that he ever did. I still can't believe that. And it was surreal. I mean, he was sadly, they posted this on Twitter. He was rushed to the hospital a mere hours after that recording. So I was one of the last people to see him before he went to the hospital, before he passed away. So pretty crazy.
Holy shit.
Rest in peace, Gilbert. He was the coolest dude. I can't highlight enough. A lovely man, left behind a beautiful family, and enjoy his work for forever, because he's one of the greats. All right, let's get on to the show, if I can make it without flubbing. Okay.
Drum roll, please.
Clicking. One moment, please. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen.
Who let the hogs out?
This is Hog Planet, and we're back. Sorry we haven't posted in a while. We're still here. Sam and I aren't treating this like it's the grind. We're just doing it for fun.
As Kanye
So.
West once said, "My presence is a present. Kiss my ass." He sounded cooler when he said it, though. But speaking of Chicago,
we're delighted to be joined by one of my favorite people online. He's a mutual. We chat on Twitter a lot. He's a super intelligent dude who's plugged in to the stuff we like to talk about, and he's been on the show before. He was on for one of our Jeffrey Epstein deep dive episodes during the pandemic. It's Barto, folks.
What's up? Thank you again for having me back on. It's great to be here.
And we really appreciate it when you said yes. We were really excited, and then that was like a week and a half ago, and then some things happened that we will get to. But first, I have a story I have to relay. Now, Sam, I kind of plugged this a little bit with you before, but I didn't get to the gritty details.
As Hog Planet aficionados know, Dan likes to keep me in the dark about the stories that he's gonna spring on me on this show, just so you get the natural Sam reaction, all the wide-eyed stares, all the throwing my hands up in the air, everything that everyone likes. So
that's called good podcasting. That's
exactly
what you're supposed to do.
Okay, so I was at Lincoln Center at my cousin's graduation from podiatry school. She is now a doctor of podiatry of the feet and lower extremities, whatever that entails. She knows how to do it.
God's work. I don't know.
No, it's cool as hell. Congrats, Alyssa.
Feet, one of the most important parts of the body.
So okay, the speaker was United States Representative Brad Wenstrup. Sam, if you want to give him a Google, that's Wenstrup. Brad Wenstrup.
He's beautiful.
Yes. Barto, have you heard of this guy?
I'm Googling him too, because like this name is setting up like little alarm bells in my brain, and I can't.
So I had to look him up. There was bad internet in the room, so I could only really get what he said in his speech, which was long as fuck. Literally, my dad was like, "This guy sucks," and went to the bathroom. He didn't say that, but you could tell he went to the bathroom just to get out of there. And then he came back, and the guy was still in. Wenstrup was still talking. So all I knew from the bio they provided in the program was that he was in the GOP Doctors Caucus. So these are some of the things.
He looks like if Ray Liotta and Arlie Ermy had a baby.
Yeah,
another RIP by the way.
RIP to Mr. Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
This is not Ray Liotta in my background. This is the GOP Congress.
Doctor. He is a doctor, Brad Wenstrup. He was in Iraq.
Oh God.
So he says there are three main points I'm going to discuss from his speech. Sure. One, he talked about being in Iraq, stumbling upon a group of emaciated individuals like Iraqis, prisoners, he said. And then he's like, "Don't worry. We brought them to Abu Ghraib." Holy
shit.
Dude, he said that like it was like, isn't that great? Like we helped these people. And I looked around and I said to my cousin, my cousin, I was like, "Do you know what that is?" And I could not believe he would say that. So that was one thing. Now, I don't know, maybe they gave out good like tuna sandwiches at Abu Ghraib some days. I don't know. Barto,
it just when I say
Abu Ghraib, for those that don't know, I mean,
I remember vividly. I was, I don't know how old you guys are. I think we're all about the same age. I'm like 34. I remember the 60 Minutes report that came out, like vividly. That shit seared in my brain. I was already like, so that would have been 2004 or 5, right?
I believe it was first term Bush, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. So early 2004 or late 2003, and I was like, a 15-year-old who was like, "Yeah, I'm an anarchist," but that was one of those like moments of like, holy shit, everything is even more fucked up than I thought it was, and
that's
weird thing to joke
circle
about.
Around the A in your name formed.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was I think I was a little young for that at the time, but like that image of the people forced to do bad things and pose for pictures is definitely like was an enduring image for me when I was getting into like anti-war stuff, as I came of age, I guess.
No, it was one of the when you're a kid and you're like, oh yeah, George Bush is like evil, like he's like actually uh devil like. He permits this sort of, I mean, literally they had like naked prisoners with dogs like biting them. I mean, you can't.
So when I was coming up, it was like a very weird time because Alex Jones hated the GOP too, and it was like this, like, I was dumb. That was part of it.
I find that hard to believe.
No, and it's still in there with me a little bit, but it meant that like he was the most present, not mainstream news source to like hate George Bush at the time. And when I read him, I'm like, okay, this dude's probably not like actually a Satan worshiper. I've never really been one of those dudes, but like I get why Alex Jones thinks he is. That was
I can't blame him on that.
Yeah.
Of all the people to assume that they worship Satan, I mean, if you think that's a bad thing, I would assume George Bush would be high on your list.
Yeah.
Just that clip recently of him like joking about how Iraq was the country that was invaded by the tyrannical despot instead of, Ukraine. He was obviously talking about Ukraine and Putin or whatever because that fits his agenda, but then managed to slip in that little Freudian a mention of Iraq.
Yeah,
like,
but yeah,
he's like allowed to just wander around and spew that nonsense out.
I didn't know that like former military guys got to like. I mean, was he brass? Was he someone who's brass, or was Wenstrup like a grunt? What was he?
God, I don't remember his.
He was a colonel. Okay, so
okay.
Whatever. But I didn't know they got to joke about that now. I thought that was still on there. Like
when I hear Abu Ghraib, it's like hearing out. It's like, oh, don't worry, we took the Jews to Auschwitz.
Yeah. It's not like that big. I mean, exaggerations aside, it's still like
maybe they have a nice gift shop.
It's like a curse word. It's like
I
get what you're saying. It's like a curse word. It's like, like as soon as I hear Abu Ghraib, I'm like, someone's making a joke that is beyond the pale.
It's this thing that we'll get into when it comes to the Uvalde shooting. I looked around the room and I was I was the only one who had registered. Like my sister would have known, but she has COVID, so she wasn't able to. Also, Barto, thank you for braving COVID to be here today.
Hell yeah, brother. I defeated this thing mostly, and so
if you don't take a break.
If you had caught me a couple days ago, there's like a 0% chance that like we would have talked about something and I would have cried while we were talking. That's like been a really huge symptom of being sick for me, is just like crying about things. But so
I mean, there's a lot to cry about this week.
And that's part of it, but also things like I cried about. I watched the new Matrix movie. I cried about 15 times while I was watching the new Matrix movie. So, but it would have made for like more interesting podcasting, I think, if you had caught me while I was crying.
Well, next time you get COVID, we will catch you in the initial spread.
We'll do.
If you want to whip up some tears now, go for it.
I'm thinking sad thoughts just to like get going. But I'm sorry your sister has COVID.
Yeah, no, but so she wasn't there, but she's plugged into all this stuff that we're plugged into, and I looked around the room and like nobody registered that. I believe my dad was out of the room at the time. He also probably would have registered this, but like nobody's registered like Abu Ghraib. Like, oh, that's not a place you take sick people to help them. Like, I don't care what. Like, I don't know. It reminded me of how people will look at things like the shooting and like they don't. It has no impact. Like it'll just like fade into memory, and then people won't even, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one thing.
It's like,
You
you
know,
think
'cause-
Abu Ghraib was bad enough that it would have been like everyone in the room would be like, oh, what the fuck, man? But
Yeah.
nobody gives a fuck.
I wonder how much Iraq war stuff has gotten either memory hold or like the younger generations just don't know. I mean, I don't know, like 20 somethings now, you know, were like a year old. Well, you know, some of them are like a year old when
It was a
9/11
doctorate
happened.
ceremony. I mean, it was older
Oh, okay.
people.
I mean, that's,
so,
Oh, okay.
that's fair.
you
Never
know.
mind.
Yeah.
Forgot that context. I mean,
Yeah.
teenage podiatrists are becoming more and more common. I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of news between now and when that all came to light, but that really did feel like one of those like moments in like the timeline of my life that I feel like kind of struck everyone equally hard. And we've had a bunch of those since then. We had a really big one a couple of years ago, so and continue to. But it's still, I don't know. I can't imagine. I mean, not booing or something. You know, I understand why you didn't boo.
I should have threw the shoe.
Yeah.
Huge missed opportunity.
The Muntazir.
Okay, now hold on, gentlemen. We've only done 1 out of 3. I have 2 more points to bring up from the
Oh
speech.
no.
And I'm telling you, this speech went on for maybe 35 minutes. Like, this graduation was like 2.5 hours, which is fine. You know, it's a doctor graduation. These take a while, but this guy spoke like he spoke like a congressman. Like he loved it. He loved fucking the eyeballs. Okay. So one day he starts going into the story, you know, one day, and the second I say these words, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Members of Congress were on a baseball field.
Oh goodness.
So
Awesome.
he was the one who saved Steve Scalise's life when he was shot on the baseball field.
As
and he was like,
if the
that
Abu
man was
Ghraib
going to
thing
kill
wasn't
like
bad
30 members
enough.
of Congress. I just
No comment.
no comment.
Yeah.
You said
Nothing
this is
actionable will be said on this podcast.
you said this is on youtube.com. That's where this is
That's
going.
right.
Yeah,
Yep.
no comment.
No comment. Okay, but I'm sure we could comment on this. He invoked, I don't know where it came from, but he talks about does the name Todd Beamer mean anything to you?
No.
No, what?
We're really
He
in
was
the weeds
one of the
now.
guys who supposedly stormed the cockpit on United 93.
Oh, whoa.
I don't know why this was brought up, but he's like, we all need to be heroes like Todd Beamer. I wrote it down.
Oh my god.
And then I
So the
whispered,
audience is
literally
supposed to like
turned
remember that name, but
I turned
and
to my
Abu
cousin
Ghraib.
and whispered, they shot the plane down.
Oh no.
I was like, I probably shouldn't have said
You
that.
besmirched Beamer's good name. Come on.
Oh,
man.
fuck it. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
We don't know anything, but you know.
It kind of seems that way, but that's
It's a weird thing to bring up at like the foot doctor graduation. You're like 9/11.
I mean, I guess like if I was an old dude, you know, in let's say he was born in 58. So let's say in 30 years, you know, I'm talking at a graduation for some assholes and, you know, I'm going to, what good, interesting thing, like positive things are, it's hard to find positive things that happened in my lifetime, but, you know, you could be like, oh, and remember when that bird landed on Bernie Sanders' podium, everyone went wild and everyone in the audience was like, what?
That's true. Yeah,
That's like our
nothing
version of
memorable
that.
has happened to me in the past 10, like, or nothing that anyone else would recall. If I were to bring it up, even a moment that we all shared collectively, I feel like 50% of the room would give blank stares.
And my quick search yielded 2 interesting things that my father and I had a laugh about. One, he obviously was endorsed by Trump. And 2, he voted against the baby formula money.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's for foot doctors, not for pediatrics.
Babies?
I mean, come on.
You're on your own.
Yeah. Yeah, make it like the rest of us. I don't know.
I feel like that's an awful but necessary transition. So
To more podiatry? To what?
Unfortunately.
I wish.
Yeah, so all right, we got to talk about it. There was a massive school shooting in Texas, Uvalde, is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's Uvalde, but
Uvalde.
I think
yes,
so
I
too.
don't want to be wrong about that, but I mean, people listening know the details. So where do we want to start with this, Sam?
I mean, first of all, I'd like to say it was bad. Seems glib to say that, but
All right. Well,
yeah,
Barto,
it's honestly like horrifying to me because I feel like there is something truly sick about a society that allows this kind of carnage. There's something, I mean, just in a sleepy town of like 25,000 close to the US-Mexico border, completely senseless violence against, 21 people, 19, like mostly like 10-year-olds, and then a couple of adults as well, one of whom who like bravely gave her life and to protect the kids. And then I believe her husband just died from a heart attack.
Yes.
It is like, I mean, it's hard to be, we're not
Sam
trying
and
to
I
be
have
funny
kind of
about
just
it
been
here.
we've kind of just been DMing each other like more and more insane news stories about this all day. It just feels like I don't know. It certainly reminds me of the George Floyd moment a little bit. I know that's like weird it's just around the same time of year, and like it's weird.
I mean, there's so many elements of like what is actually happening. There's excuse me, there's the like police element, obviously. And that's what is in terms of like what I can look at as kind of like a rational person, because like when I look at the violence itself, I don't know how to process anything like that. I don't know how to look at it and be like, oh, here are the ways to fix it or whatever, because yeah, Sam, that something is just completely irrevocably broken. I had this thought the other day about how most, after like the Anders Breivik thing in Norway, they had like the next month, they had a national day of mourning about it. And I started thinking about like, that seems like a normal response, right, from a country. But then I started thinking about Americans don't get enough days off. And then there'd just be this huge subset of people who didn't like actively want a big shooting to happen, but would think like, oh, I bet we get a day off if there's a big enough shooting. And then there'd be a smaller subset of people who like want that. And then there'd be a smaller set of people who are just like egging each other on to do it. And so we can never have a national day of mourning. We can't like, something is just so sick. I don't know how to process it.
My reaction to it has been like, it's just like, maybe we're too, I like to think that we can work together to make a better society. And it's daunting. And this is like one of the biggest blows to my confidence in that. I even think if I didn't believe it, I would still work towards that goal. But like seeing like that level of carnage and honestly, the way that, of course, it's, been processed. Of course, we're going to get into some horrible takes about it. But I mean, the fact that we have all these weapons out in the, I'm not some kind of huge gun control guy, but the sheer quantity of like weapons produced in the US that stay here and how, prevalent they are is like something, it's like a bell that can't be unrung. I don't know. It's like, it makes me feel like it really like shook my confidence. I was genuinely like, maybe we're beyond the pale. Maybe we're already into barbarism. Maybe we're not even going to get the chance for socialism or whatever.
I don't want to like talk about too much like myself right now, but like, when I initially, saw the tweets about it, like I was on the subway home, and it was almost like it didn't really hit until you read the number of victims and the word children. Like,
and their
until then, it was kind of just like, well, another day in America. And then all of a sudden it's like, this is actually extraordinary. And you almost feel weird for like writing it off initially, because it's like any tragedy is a tragedy, but I mean, how are we to get through the day if we just?
But I think
that's
you're
all-
right. It numbs
know,
that your exposure to
numb.
all this violence numbs you to it, and you become like this becoming like a numbers game. Like, was this is like this, the third worst shooting, and like the first worst shooting, it was this many people, and like this is how old those kids were. It becomes this awful like.
I hated that thing where people were
counting.
like, the Columbine kids are old enough to have kids now. It's just like, I don't fucking care, man.
Yeah, I don't know.
I did see one of the Columbine survivors talking about this, and it really ripped me up. I don't know, man, because it just seems so stupid that we're dealing with this, and that law enforcement is so fucking bad at this.
So I pulled
Yes.
from the New York Times a little section here that I want to read.
Please.
So was it Uvalde?
Yes.
Uvalde, a small community not far from the U.S.-Mexico border, was among the beneficiaries, getting a grant for $69,141. At about the same time, the school district was building up its own security. It hired 2 new police officers last year, expanding to a 6-person force that serves about 4,000 students across several schools. The school system's spending on security and monitoring services more than doubled in the past 4 years, budget records show. The district's security plan included 2-way radios, threat assessment teams at each school, and a policy of locking each classroom door. At Robb Elementary, where the rampage took place on Tuesday, officials described fencing and closing the campus that was, quote, designed to limit and or restrict access to individuals without a need to be on campus, district records said. The school district's security training exercises in August 2020 included its own police officers, the Uvalde City Police, the county sheriff's office, and other local agencies. It was very successful, Pete Arredondo, chief of the school district's police force, wrote in a summary for district officials from the school district. Did not respond to messages for comment on Thursday. Now, important to note, I think he scaled that whatever fencing was supposed to restrict the school from outsiders. I think it was pretty easy to get through that.
Yeah.
That whole thing, like reading that, it's just like, the only response to this is going to be throwing more money at police, and this,
right.
Well,
like all we are faced with is their abject like failure.
But that's what's sort of interesting to me about this moment is, and there's no good that could come from anything like this, but we're having this weird moment where, like, I saw the Washington Examiner calling Biden and being like, the White House should investigate how these cops messed up so badly. The Washington Examiner loves police officers more than just about any newspaper in the country. And, there's all these news outlets trying to dance around this idea of having to say the cops fucked up real bad and got a whole bunch of people killed. And they're just kind of tiptoeing around it right now. But
Greg Abbott's
Greg
Abbott's doing a lot of the press conferences himself, and it's very clear they're trying to keep it very tight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Barto, I agree with you where I don't know if this is maybe just like a Twitter bubble thing, but I mean, if the Examiner is saying it, maybe it isn't. But the story for me is definitely like all the videos that the parents have, and of course, when things like this happen, parents become very vocal, and a lot of them become politicized, which is like very natural. You would want to change things so this doesn't happen to other people. One would hope, but they've all been talking about how the police more or less were like controlling them as a crowd, and they didn't go in the school for what it was like an hour or something like that.
Sam, I think that's in our DMs. Can you pull that quote up?
40 minutes, but yeah.
Barto, like what's your experience like? When did you like start to be anti-cop? When'd you learn that?
I've always sort of been, I've never really been like, when I was in kindergarten, I got my finger printed with everyone else. I wasn't like, fuck you, pig, but I was, I don't know. I have a lot of like, when I was like in my late teens, I lived in kind of like a rough and tumbly neighborhood. And so I'm going to tell trying to decide which. I have like a number of like really good police encounter stories that like are really good because I or anyone I was with didn't get hurt. But like, my first date with one of my ex-girlfriends, she's dropping me off at my apartment, and I'd been pulled over, or I'd been stopped and searched and all that stuff a bunch of times since I moved in here. And we're right out front of my house and the lights come on. And I'm like, don't worry about it. I get my ID out to be like, I live here, it's all good. And she rolls down the window and he has a gun in her face, like immediately. And he's like, get the fuck out of the car, get the fuck out of the car. And so we both get out of the car. And for whatever reason, we were listening to like Bach, and Bach was just blaring out of the car speakers while this is all going on. Or Vivaldi. It was Vivaldi.
Oh,
much more exciting.
That's even worse.
Much more exciting music than Bach. But so I'm like 4 squad cars and a paddy wagon show up. And I got searched. I got, put my hands on the back of the car and all that shit. They take everything out of my pockets. We have to have a lady officer show up for my ex. And in my pocket, I have money, I have a phone, I have a SOS pad, like one of those sponges with metal shit on one side. And I have a one-hitter. And one, when I'm getting searched, one of the cops is like, I bet if you hit this one-hitter, smoke would come out. I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. But every single one of the cops asked me about my SOS pad. And they kept being like, what are you doing with this, man? What are you doing with this? I'm like, what the fuck do you do with it? Like, dishes, man, that are the dishes that are in my house, that it's right over there. It's in my house. And
I've been smoking this SOS pad, sorry.
Well, so after about 25 minutes, they let us go and they're like, sorry, we had a partial on your VIN. Have a good night, which is not a real thing. You can't see a VIN, you can't, whatever. I go into my house and I tell my roommate about this and he starts laughing when I get to the SOS pad. And apparently this makes perfect sense to me now, but people who smoke crack or meth might cut off the thing of an SOS pad and put in their pipe. But I used to I've had guns held to my head on like 3 different occasions by police officers. I've been handcuffed probably 30, 40 times, something, and mostly just for like walking around. Only one arrest, and that was like Occupy. That was no big deal.
Yeah.
Right.
But
so I'm sorry to mess with so much. Dang.
I don't know. It was really a weird couple of years.
But so then how do you process this modern, this modern culture of, I don't know, this exhausting cycle of like, we're anti-defund the police, but like no one's defunding the police. And like, they just get more and more militarized. And, there was all this energy in 2020 and nothing really came of it. And, how do you process that as someone who's, has dealt with all this in your life?
So, one of the things that's interesting about moving back to Chicago from Wilmington, Delaware, is in Wilmington, Delaware, people love the cops. Like the normal people on the street, like will flag down the cops and give them a handshake and stuff like that. And it's like, Wilmington's like a very diverse city. It's not just like a little white suburb. Excuse me. COVID-19. But Chicago, like the average person, even if they don't want the cops to go away, have a reasonable fear of them. And so it's nice to be back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's, I never really expected the George Floyd protests to lead to like reform or whatever, because reform isn't real. Like, we don't get police reform. Reform is entrenchment. Like every change you make that to make it better cements it a little bit further. That's how it is with all these essentially extractive systems. And the George Floyd protest was about the conflict in itself and moving towards like a culture of hostility towards police. And so whether or not, Joe Biden was, elected on this wave of protests, essentially. But I didn't in any way expect him to come in and be like, Mac, no, the police got too much money, Mac, and we gotta have them cool it like that. There's never
chokeholds, man. Come on.
I guess it was the same like flawed idea that many of us had with the Bernie Sanders campaign, where it was like, if we're just right enough, like the people will come, and it's like, no, not really. Like there's forces that, like, I don't know if we could ever contend with, that are just moneyed and extremely ruthless. That will, they'll do whatever they can to stop the Democratic Socialist presidential candidate, but they don't give a fuck about women's rights to get an abortion or anything.
Yeah. No, and Dan, you're right that we're at, I think yesterday or the day before was the year anniversary or 2-year anniversary of the George Floyd killing. And I believe Biden signed like an executive order that like bans chokeholds and no-knock entries. What that actually means, like whether or not that will stop police from doing it, or if they do it after this executive order, whether they're going to be held accountable or prosecuted or whatever, that needs to be seen. I would personally doubt it, but yeah, I don't know. This moment is unique because I feel like the story is so much on the police, and the usual oh well, we need strong, you say you don't want cops around, what about when something like this happens? This is in this case, the numbers on the Uvalde police department are preposterous. The town spends something like half of its annual budget on police. It's a town of 25,000 with a SWAT team. It's like if Westport, Connecticut had a SWAT team. It's and they have all these cringy, awful posts of the people in the group posing with like their military grade weapons and body armor, and you look at it and you're like, well, you guys weren't doing shit. Why? I can't see. I don't know. Obviously, I'm coming at this with a significant bias because I think the police are bad and I don't want them to have weapons and I want them to exist. But I don't see how you can look at this and see anything other than, you threw all this money at these people and they just treated it like to buy toys. They think they're play acting. They're having fun. The only crowd control they were willing to, or the only thing they were willing to do was, talk back to the parents who were like, why aren't you doing anything? And they're arrogant too. Like you asked me to look up that quote. There was a reporter in Uvalde who asked at a press conference, asked the one of the police officers why you weren't, what were you doing between like 11:44 and 12:44, and they just walked away. Like they're really brazen.
They know they have impunity and they don't even care, and they'll still hold up this feeling that they are brave.
Yeah.
And it's anyone with a fucking brain knows that they are just absolute cowards.
Well, it's like pure aesthetics to them. I think honestly, like it's like the same as when dumbass conservatives buy a ton of military grade weapon that they have no use for. It's like just to post it. It's just for fun. It's I don't know. What do you do with that? Sorry, Barter, I cut you off.
No. You nailed it. That's the really maddening thing about anyone I've seen making excuses and being like, oh, well, you would have done the same thing. And I sort of get the idea that, like, yes, we actually shouldn't be relying on police for things like this because they are all just big babies. Again, the thing that they took action on was hurting unarmed people. That was like what they succeeded at during that whole thing.
They feared for their lives. So they were in this case, they were feared for their lives and they didn't shoot go in and kill the shooter. Although eventually a CBP officer did.
Can I read you just some of the some of the most devastating things I read today? This is from the New York Times, kind of ongoing roundup about the shooting. Desiree Garza, whose niece Amare Jo Garza was killed in the attack, was among the anxious family members who gathered outside the school on Tuesday and grew increasingly frantic. Her brother, I assume it's Angel, her niece's stepfather, learned from one child running from the school that a girl named Amari had been shot inside. As he ran to try to reach and help her, he was restrained and handcuffed by a local police officer, Ms. Garza said. Nobody was telling him anything. He was trying to find out. He wanted to know where his daughter was. And two, once freed from her cuffs, Miss Gomez made her distance from the crowd, jumped the school fence, and ran inside to grab her two children. She sprinted out of the school with them. They were arresting the parents.
Yeah.
I mean, this should like end America. This is like just call it a day kind of shit.
Yeah.
I don't even know what to say.
I saw Michael Tracy, of all people, conservative, or I don't know.
Friend of the show. No, I'm kidding.
Friend of the show, Michael Tracy.
Ugh.
Just trying to think, this is a quote, just trying to think of what the most plausible explanation would be. If the explanation really is a large number of heavily armed cops decide to passively let the mass murder of kids continue without intervening, then the abolished police people were right all along. Like, you know.
Damn.
Yes. I mean, what else can you say when you see it's all right there? It's all on fucking video. And no matter whatever timeline that they're giving us, because they've given us several timelines of what happened so far. I have no idea. I don't claim to know what actually happened, but they're all pretty bad.
By the time this posts in the morning, it might there might be more information out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's there's no good way to spin this, and so you know the brightest bulbs in Congress and whatever have pivoted to like one door. That is this, and traps. There's people going on Fox News and saying that we should be setting traps for bad men in schools. And
I'm just going to quote my own brilliant tweet here and say, hold on, I want to read it word for word because I'm a fucking wordsmith. Every school shooter must be met with the same defenses that took down Joe Pesci in Home Alone.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
That's basically what they're saying.
that's like all I could think about was like
no, there was that super cut of like,
like
all the different
brick
the
thrown
paint.
at his head and like feathered. I don't just. This is not like serious stuff. Like whatever they're talking about is ridiculous.
And it's absurd. Like there are suggestions.
They're gonna trap him in like an escape room.
Yeah, the Fox News reaction to this. I mean, yes, there's
read some of that list of Fox News solutions.
Right. So I think a lot of people said there was like a super cut of all the different Fox News anchors and talking heads talking about what should be done. Everything shy of, maybe having some common sense gun laws, which I'm not even like 100% on, but still.
Maybe like they could get rid of the AR-15. I'd be fine with that.
I think there's like ways to combat the production of guns in the US.
Also, important to note, he legally bought the gun on his 18th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Something's off with that.
Yeah, it's a little odd, but either way, they're of course their suggestions are to arm everybody, arm a security guard, arm deputies and station them at the school, arm the teachers, arm the school administrators. Just imagine like a vice principal, like with like a handgun, barking at you in the hallway. That sounds great. Of course, put police in the schools, train the students to defend themselves.
Can you imagine in like gym class, but also like, I don't know, like target practice? Like what the fuck
kids
would that
already
even
have
mean?
that. Don't kids like already basically, I don't know, I'm not saying they like are arming
well, like
themselves,
school
but
shooter
kids do
drills, of
active
course.
shooter
Right.
drills all the time now. But yeah, they're like higher fences, trip wires. Let's have trip wires around like children. Great.
It's literally like Tom and Jerry shit.
The single point of entry is one that really gets me. It's like, have you ever heard of the concept of a fire hazard? Sure, let's have like 1,400 high school students in a building with one exit. That sounds
Maybe they won't get shot, but they'll like burn to death.
Or like, if I was of a particularly sick mind, you might just show up while all the kids are waiting to get into the school in the morning in one long line, like it's just all of this. It's just the most half-assed, Looney Tunes bullshit that, like I've heard almost zero discussion about the fact that it sounds like he had like a really bad home life, and which I don't think excuses fucking anything, because I know a lot of people with some really bad home lives. But but this dude, and in addition to all that, there's one through line that connects almost all mass shooters, and it's that they hate women. And there's all his coworkers at Wendy's are like, the women are like, he was really fucking weird to me. And some of his men coworkers were like, yeah, he was sending like really aggressive text messages to women coworkers and stuff like that. And we're just sort of pretending like that's not a factor in this at all, and it's very strange to me.
Yeah, that is odd, that omission. But I don't know, to the broader point, I feel like that's like considered it's like water to a fish in this country. I mean, hating women is very mainstream. They probably don't even see it as a factor. They're like, men are like that. He was just a dude being a dude.
That's kind of how I am looking at it too, is that it's just, it's less, I said this already, and so sorry for repeating myself, but it's less sexy to point out than this guy was a fucking Nazi, like who has a black sun on his firearm or whatever, which is not to say that it's not fucking awful that we had this dude in Buffalo who was a fucking Nazi, egged on by other fucking online Nazis. But it's less of a there's less iconography to go along with hating women. You can't make quite as nice a splash piece out of it for your headline or whatever.
No, and it's a through line. I mean, Elliot Rodger, like any of these shooters, their name, like they had major ties to whatever you want to call it, 4chan, men's rights, any of that scene.
Base level misogyny or more advanced misogyny.
Yeah. All right, let's hold on. Let's
go to one of the
sorry.
Fox News things that I think is interesting is that so many of them said, we need to turn to God. And of course, to them, that means,
I'm looking at this list: pray, faith, and prayer.
Address moral rot, which of course just means
number 31 is just God.
People, but either way, no, they just mentioned God, and I honestly like the God one is like an interesting thing because I'm like, I basically by any other way of describing it, I agree. Like we like God to any meaningful extent. If God exists, or if I believe in any kind of God, I would say, he has forsaken this place. Of course, what that means to them is like we need to make sure we have religious freedom to discriminate against people. We need to make sure that we make sure that no one's allowed to use the wrong bathroom or whatever in their eyes. All this anti-trans stuff, all this panic about groomers in schools. I don't know, like there's part of me that's like I want to see if there's a way to like channel that energy. Like there's a grain of truth there. Like we do need, this country as a whole needs to, what some people would call find Jesus. Like I don't know, it's like but that's not like a policy prescription. It's not something I can say in a podcast, but you can't codify that into law, obviously. I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of talking out of my ass.
No, but that's part of the problem is that, like, I agree. You could try like a gun confiscation program or whatever, and like, pick up. I don't know how many firearms are in this country, a fucking lot. But there is a, I don't even want to call it a spiritual void, but that's what you're getting at, right? We have like, essentially like a complete lack of, I mean, not everybody. There are a lot of wonderful people doing a lot of really, really wonderful things to try and make the world a lot, in this country in particular, like a less shitty place to exist in. But as a whole, there's something missing in the center of it that like creates humanity towards one another in a way that stops things from happening like this once a week or so. It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Just
Let's
to
yeah,
get a
sorry, Sam.
moment of
What do you got?
levity.
I just want to get to the Scott Adams thing. I've been trying to get there
Just for
for
a
so
moment
long.
of levity, we've spoon fed the listeners enough and viewers enough vegetables here. The man of the hour, the man we need to hear from, is Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, infamous, vaguely right wing, but like mostly into hypnotism and objectifying women. I guess.
Barto, are you a Dilbert guy?
I love Garfield. I love Garfield, and I think Scott Adams draws Garfield wonderful, and I hope he keeps drawing Garfield wonderful. But I liked Dilbert a little bit as a little kid. I never saw his really bizarre TV show.
I'm pretty sure that Jim Davis is the Garfield guy, though, right?
No. Yeah, but he used to get really upset with you if you would ask him Garfield questions under his posts. I'm sorry, I thought that was more common parlance, and that joke made more sense.
Sam missed it. I definitely caught it.
Went over my head. I'm the dumbass on the show. What do you?
No.
The town fool.
But yeah, Scott Adams is one of the. What did he say the other day? I somehow have lost $25,000 on 3 different occasions or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. He was talking about getting robbed of he's like, this happens to me all the time. It was awesome.
Well, and it was like on at least 3 different occasions, so possibly another one. He has weird semen ideas, and he has weird. But what did he say today? I'm sorry.
This is like next. This is a one I hadn't seen before.
I've been trying to transition to this for a while now, so I'm really excited we're about to hear this.
It's one I really had not thought of. But
prepare to smoothen your brain to a level of just complete pancake.
Or maybe this is a galaxy brain take. We don't. Time will tell. But at Scott Adams says. If we made it legal for kids to kill their bullies, a lot of problems would go away. We'd create new problems, sure, but how could those new problems be worse? This is a thought experiment, not a recommendation.
I did see that.
Let's just let them at each other, whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, kill him legally, sure. That makes so much sense.
Having like the purge in schools.
He falls under sort of the like intellectual class of MAGA too, which is what I think is really special about him, is that there are people out there in the world that like think Scott Adams has something to offer us all if like the wokes would just like shut up and listen for a second. I'm
the wokes.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to Scott Adams. Consider letting kids kill their bullies.
No, you're right that there's like a certain kind of like MAGA logic, which is like, if it sounds provocative, maybe it's the truest thing you've ever heard. I don't know. I don't know how to put it. It's like sophistry. It really is sophistry, where it's just like the artifice of reasoning. Ben Shapiro is a perfect example of this, because he's a kind of a gifted sophist, because he looks and talks like someone who's smart. Then if you try to reason anything out that he says, it's complete gibberish. And the only way he gets those, Ben Shapiro dunks on like a crying 17-year-old videos is because he just selectively finds someone, and the audience he's catering to is willing to they're looking for like red meat. They don't really care about the intellectual rigor of it. They care more about seeing someone that they don't like for a bad reason get yelled at. But I don't know. I feel like it's here to stay, even though I don't know. Hopefully people are getting wise to this, but I don't know. Maybe
hang on. What happened? Hold on. I thought the GOP literally were going on TV every night saying teachers are groomers, but now we want to give them firearms in the classroom. They can't talk about racism, but they should be strapped. Barto, your thoughts?
I mean, this to me comes down to, well, there's 2 things. They don't really want like public school teachers to exist at all. You know, like when they're talking about this, they're not talking about like the like queer preschool teachers that they're also, when they're talking about giving guns to teachers, they're not talking about the queer preschool teachers. They don't want that teacher to like they're part of the same project. Let's
arm non-binary teachers.
They're saying, let's get out the teachers that say gay. Let's get a former, Marine in there who is, scared when someone gets up too quick to go to the bathroom. And let's give that guy a gun so that if a shooter comes in, then they'll be safe. And also let's make sure that is a private school or a charter school, so that they could be fired when they get too woke or whatever.
That was the thing I was going to say.
They're compatible projects.
They would love to destroy public education.
Well, the Federalist
responses.
The Federalist article we sent each other was literally a case for homeschooling after the school shooting. I mean, they want to destroy public education.
Yeah, and it's like this. It's like this very kind of like Wild West idea of like protect your own. We live in this chaotic, violent world. Nothing is safe. We need to. I mean, I don't know. They want like some kind of like newfangled suburban feudalism. And they want like uniformity of thought with their kids. And yeah, they would love to get rid of public education. And and as long as public education has to exist, and in their eyes, I think they would be fine with having a few police on campus so they could, pick off one or two of the rowdy non-white students. I don't know. It is all compatible in their worldview, like you said, even though it seems insane. Like but they view it as this us versus them conflict. They will arm the ex-military teachers, and that will be a way to get rid of the non-binary teachers telling my kids to use they them for certain kinds of people.
Right. Yeah. It never, and the other thing is like most of this stuff, it doesn't matter what comes in conflict with one another. Like you can, fascism, there's no internal logic to it at all. It's just firing from the hips all the time. And this one does happen to be compatible in some like weird, freaky way that is truly upsetting once you get to the nitty gritty of it. But
yeah.
Do you want to press forward to Sleepy Joe's riveting statement?
Yeah, just very quickly, I wanted to be clear that a lot of the liberal responses to this are very dumb as well. Not on the level of like saying, let's turn our schools into bunkers that, would turn into like, just
I'm
if they were to
curious. Before we get into this, Barto, what did you think of the Beto thing?
What Beto like interrupted? I don't remember what Beto did.
He interrupted.
He's one of those names.
A bunch of Republicans. He does something performative every. I don't know. I feel like he might genuinely care about this on some level, but
I'm sure he does. I don't dispute that he doesn't care about this. I just don't think that he is going to be like a relevant person at all in the future of the Democratic Party or otherwise, But what did he do? He interrupted Abbott, right?
That's right. They were doing a news conference, and he, Sam, you want to pull up the exact quotes there? I mean, it should be pretty easy to find. It was a pretty viral story, and there was like a gaggle of press talking to him after, and actually some of the networks cut to Beto instead of the news conference. But according to Politico,
he said, like, you are doing nothing. Governor Abbott, I have to say something. The time to stop the next shooting is right now, and you're doing nothing.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, and of course the GOP weirdos got up in his face, like the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick called Beto O'Rourke an embarrassment.
Someone said something about like, how could you politicize this? And it's like,
the mayor of Uvalde shouted at Beto O'Rourke, "I can't believe you're a sick son of a bitch that would come to a deal like this to make a political issue." Which,
Jesus Christ.
How is this not a political issue? Are you crazy? Like, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. Anytime someone says don't politicize X, I'm always like, that's like the cat's already out of the fucking bag. Like, we live on Earth. there's gravity and stuff like that. I don't know.
I mean, the GOP made a thing out of, like, I have COVID right now because a bunch of assholes decided to politicize, put in masks over kids' faces, and so now all the teachers get sick, and so now I'm sick. But it's what do you mean don't politicize this? It's so fucking weird. Where do you think solutions come from? Just nasty people.
And now Sam will do a reading of President Biden's tweet here.
Right. So this is like the leader of the fucking free world here. These kinds of mass shootings really happen elsewhere in the world. Why are we willing to live with this carnage? Well, why do we keep letting this happen? We're in God's name. This is our backbone to have the courage to deal with it. It's time to turn this pain into action. It's like you are the okay, whatever.
Just vote.
Just vote, I guess.
Every
time I bring up like, oh, what why can't this motherfucker do something else? I get a million liberals telling me like, oh, he can't because of Joe Manchin, because of the NRA, which has been involved in this like protracted, like they're basically gonna fall apart because of this like case brought against them in the SDNY. Like they're really not like the bogeyman to call out right now, honestly. Not that I think they're like a good organization or that they're particularly helping, but like there's something bigger going on.
No, the GOP is not as beholden to the NRA as they used to be. So to say like, oh, we can't do anything is kind of stupid. Like Wayne LaPierre is done. Oliver North is done.
I mean, the NRA still does the voter recommendations thing. Or the NRA stamp of approved rating or whatever they call it, which I think does have a lot of sway, at least in the GOP, even if they don't have a lot of money going to individual politicians. But I think the crux of this is correct, is that they don't, mostly it's that no one fucking wants to do anything. It's not that there's this particularly spooky single guns rights organization that's like holding everybody back.
Yeah, but it's conspiratorial thinking. Like I think the last time you were on, we talked about conspiratorial thinking and how it's like an impediment to progress because you just, you assume somebody's in charge, but it's the bad guys, and there's like nothing I can do about it but be aware of this. And so you tell your friends like, oh, I don't really trust the NRA, and that's like it feels like all you can do. But I mean, some people are not content to live with that. Some people have been begging Quinta Brunson, the creator of the Abbott Elementary sitcom, to make an episode of her show, which takes place in Philadelphia at a school, about a school shooting.
And it's a black school. Like that's
and it's a black school, which I mean, the jokes are already like, only white kids are the ones who, shoot up their fellow students. So that already isn't going to fly. But I mean, to her credit, she's been saying like, I'm not like the TV show is not a politician. Like this is entertainment. Like what are you? I don't know. It's amazing.
All that matters if there's no politics, right? Like this is all these people have. They don't like this. The common refrain you see under Biden tweets is from people being pissed. A lib will comment to them and say, "Well, what would you do?" Like, I'm not the fucking president.
Yeah.
I saw a really excellent tweet this morning that just said, Biden is always tweeting shit like, who the hell is the president? I'd like to have a word with him. And it's been rattling around in my head all day.
Yeah.
And, and to a certain extent, again, I'm sympathetic to the idea that like, I don't really know how you legislate your way out of this. Except for things that no one is talking about, which is like less militant schools in general, like take cops out of schools, stop arresting fucking teenagers, stop putting war or military recruiters in schools, get rid of the fucking it's like crazy to think, this is an old Michael Moore point, but it's nuts to think that like our foreign policy doesn't affect our culture in like a meaningful way. And these are like all small steps to eventually lead to a greater cultural shifts where people don't think of this as like a feasible option as an outlet for their frustration or their anger or whatever, or their misogyny or whatever there is leading them to make this decision.
No, and the perfect nexus of that is here with former DHS Secretary Jay Johnson. These guys all, one thing about spooks I noticed is they have like the most made up fucking first names on earth.
It's
like
J-E-H.
J-E-H, Jay Johnson. Anyway, he says that America needs an Emmett Till moment. We need to see the photos, the images of slaughtered innocent children in Texas is the only way is the only way to wake America from this defeated haze and take real action on guns. Like, imagine saying something more tone deaf than that. I don't know how.
I just want to point out, it's hard enough seeing on my social feed like the actual photos of the dead, like of them alive.
Yeah.
That morning, you know, like it's hard enough. That should be enough.
Yeah.
We started this conversation talking about a guy making jokes about Abu Ghraib. You know, like we all saw that. We still have, you know, plenty of firepower in Iraq. You know, it's not like photos don't do that. In fact, that entices some of these fucking people who are completely isolated from everyone else and get all of their enjoyment out of online communities where that are trafficked in hate and violence. And you know, it sucks
as if a
that
literal
that is the
white
case.
Supremacist didn't just massacre people and live stream it in Buffalo. Like,
right.
Is that not enough? Like, what more do you need? It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's like, oh, people will see that, and then, but it's like, what would the actual results of that be? Just people being like more disturbed and like detached and psychologically destroyed than they already are.
Yeah.
Barto, sorry, go ahead.
No. Just, I don't know what else to say about this.
I know. I'm thinking, do we have any closing thoughts on this topic before we lighten it up a little bit?
No, yeah, I'll close it. I think to close it out, it is really good to focus on what Barto said about the connection between militarism abroad and militarism here, because that DHS Secretary, Jay Johnson, who said that we need an Emmett Till moment with these poor children, he makes $325,000 a year as a director at Lockheed Martin. This is, of course, a company that sells guided missiles and smart bombs and drones that blast children in the Middle East to bits. And even like, I saw Obama talking about like, this is such a tragedy. Michelle and I were so sad. And I'm like, you melted children across the Middle East with military grade weapons. Like, how do you have a leg to stand on with this? Or Chris Evans too, like the actor who plays Captain America or whatever, being like, fuck, this sucks, man. And then I'm like, people posted, like quote tweeted that with an image of him signing warheads in Afghanistan. Like you can't have your cake and eat it too on this one. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's sick society. Very sick.
So it's a hog planet, as we like to say. And this next story is all right. Like, we were gonna have to talk about it eventually. It's an NFT story. Let's just get to something completely different here. Seth Green's NFT has been stolen. Sam, give us a roundup before we watch this horrific trailer for Seth Green's Bored Ape Yacht Club TV
Seth
show.
Green is like is a true believer in the NFT world.
And we all know Seth Green, right? Barto, you've seen Austin Powers, of course.
Oh yeah, Austin Powers, Idle Hands,
Buffy.
I never really watched Buffy, but
I think he was on there, right?
Maybe.
Rat Race, great movie.
Rat Race, there we go. Yeah, series of winners. But I know Seth Green.
Yes, so Seth Green, small, funny Jewish comedy.
Yeah,
guy.
Seth Green was on Buffy. Thank you.
Okay, good. Good job, Dan. You did a great job. So he wants to make. He's an NFT true believer. He's part of the ape community. He drinks all the Kool-Aid about like, oh, we're, it's a social club. Like we do this for fun. It's not just like stupid ass investment vehicle for dummies and probably a Ponzi scheme. And so he's so inspired by it that he wants one of his bored apes to be to star in this comedy where he's just a bartender at like a local watering hole. And in the trailer, which we'll play, like there are all these other NFTs walking around there. It's sort of like, I guess, like sort of like in BoJack Horseman, how there's people and then there's animals. It's like there's people and then there's NFTs who are cartoonish. And he is the voice of his own Bored Ape, number 8398. But unfortunately, many people have been getting fished out of these NFTs, like like mistakenly giving them away somehow on the internet. Maybe Barto knows more about this, but like apparently like there's some phishing scams that they do where even if you delete the email out of your inbox, it like transfers your NFT to the person who sent you the phishing email. Like it's not just normal phishing, like don't click this link. There's apparently a lot of ways you can do it.
I think you could, I might be wrong about this because I really hate this shit, but I think you could actually give someone, put an NFT in their like wallet. And if you click on that NFT or even delete it because it's suspicious, your whole wallet goes to them. If you interact with it at all, it goes to the attacker. And so you just have to know that all of these little things that are showing up in your wallet, those are just like, don't look at them. Which is I would guess that's what happened to Seth Green. I'm not really sure. I've not followed the specifics.
So yes, Seth Green has lost his NFT to Twitter user Darkwing84, and he's been tweeting at this guy all day, like, "Please, man, like, let's talk. We're both part of the ape community." Where I'm not sure if he was the guy who stole it, but that's the current holder.
I believe
right?
I believe he bought it. Like he technically owns it, but he bought it from the guy who stole it from Seth Green.
Right. And none of this makes any sense because it just doesn't. But yeah, now apparently, and I'm like, okay, it's an NFT. Like everyone knows you can just, right click, copy the image. And of course the NFT people will go off and tell you about how, you're not actually having the NFT if you just take the image of it. But, obviously the product is this blockchain chicanery, which is just making computers run so that they waste electricity. I believe that's how it works.
Yeah.
So his ape has been stolen. He's like, I can't do the show without the ape. And I'm like, you really did drink the Kool-Aid, I guess. Cause like, yes, you fucking could. Like, if you don't, the guy doesn't like own any, you can reproduce the likeness of it. I don't get what's holding him back.
All right, let's.
You know what I think is weird though is as far as I could tell from the actual terms of service from the Bored Ape Yacht Club themselves, they could still use the image from his NFT. He doesn't hold, as far as I can tell, the people who have Bored Apes don't actually hold exclusive rights to those Bored Apes. The Yacht Club still can do pretty much whatever they want with them. I'm not 1000% at that because I'm not a lawyer, but yeah, if they wanted to hop in and make the Seth Green ape show, they probably could. Oh, we get to watch this. Excellent.
I want to point out that a second ago, the ad on the side before I full screened it was an ad for NFTs in this BuzzFeed article about. Okay, fuck it.
It's more of what we're talking about. It's a sick society. Like people are throwing away money that could like change people's lives on like fake shit that like is run by just spoiling the environment. Like again, I don't know. Maybe
here's the Seth Green fucking Bored Ape Yacht Club trailer.
Kickstarter music is so bad. Like it's like the worst kind of like low rent pitch music I've ever heard.
It seems like it has to have been free. Like there's no way he paid someone to write that music. That is from like free beats to walk down the street to on YouTube. That's very weird.
It's public domain. All right, so we're seeing like the ape walking down the street to the White Horse Tavern, which is the, Patty's Pub or the Cheers bar in question. There's nice people, regular looking people, and then the bartender is just this ape. This man with like in a suit, like a chubby man with a beard, and like roses bursts in breathily. I remember this guy featuring heavily in this, but I cannot for the life of me understand what we're supposed to be taking away from
that. I believe that
this.
is actor Connor Ratliff, who had a podcast called Dead Eyes, where I don't know, it was about him. He was fired by Tom Hanks like 20 years ago on a job, and then he tries to figure out why. And in the end, he talks to Tom Hanks. So now he's acting in the NFT show. Great stuff.
Hey, Gary. Yeah, how are you? How you doing? Good. Yeah.
So the Bored Ape seems to be the bartender, or is that like his?
I believe he's the bartender. Yeah, that's like the premise of the show. It's like he's like the Ted Danson.
I'll just say, that's who they part maybe tonight.
And it's Seth Green doing the voice. There's now like Roger Rabbit-esque characters.
I'm taking my break.
Yeah, I'm like, are those also NFTs? I guess. I think you're supposed to do that, right?
Are they like getting stoned on the roof? Like what is this?
Yeah, there's yep. The variety of the NFTs is really weird too. Like there's people who look like, legends.
And there's that guy
like
Rajat from Twitter.
They're now pouring the man in the suit and tie a gigantic glass of whiskey.
Only gay guy in my ballet class who can make a fist.
This just like really low rent gay joke they make midway through it.
You're never in a relationship. Yeah, I like it that way. If I don't come in Monday, pick me up at the ICU. You wanna grab a slice or something?
Yeah, no offense.
Nah, none taken. I was just being polite.
Where are these jokes? Like I haven't heard any jokes yet. I will also say.
It looks like it's going to be.
Didn't follow it. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
It looks like it's a drama, maybe like more of like laying on like a relationship building show rather than like a haha comedy show.
Yeah, one of those like sort of sad comedies like Louis or Master of None, or like
I was thinking This Is Us or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But with cartoons. I don't know. I can't figure out what is supposed to be drawing me into that show. It's very unclear. The one joke was the big cup of whiskey.
Yeah, the one joke is the inexplicable dude who busts in, and I don't know.
The apes are fucking stupid. And why don't we read Seth Green's really funny response? Looking forward to precedent-setting debates on IP ownership and exploitation, having spent 18 years studying copyright and the industry laws. Yeah, okay.
When?
Okay, Seth. I'd rather meet at Darkwing 84 to make a deal versus in court. We can prove the promise of ape community.
The apes hang in the balance. I don't know. The promise of the ape community.
You may not have real community, but you can have ape community.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't like you're lonelier than ever, but the apes are there for you. Also, why do the apes all look like they're crying? They don't really look like they're bored.
They look depressed. I
Maybe
mean,
that's what's going on here.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel bad for, or if they don't look depressed, they look fucked up, which is fine, and I hope they're having fun. But like,
that's true.
I don't get the visual appeal. I don't get it's clearly a bad investment because
okay, but like he's not allowed to make the show if he doesn't get Darkwing to sell him his ape back. How does that make any sense? Like, who owns Sam has been his background for those watching on YouTube
now?
Sam is the ape now.
It's mine.
It's not like he's not using the JPEG for the show. Like, it doesn't matter.
It's not like if you just were, you drew like Minnie Mouse and you're like, I own this character.
You're missing that he's like a true believer in this nonsense. If it was anyone else, they'd be like, oh yeah, whatever, steal my ape. I couldn't care less.
He used the phrase ape community.
Yeah, he's like, this is the ape community. We don't do things like this to one another. We have morals. It's like, no, you don't. It's a dumb security. And I think, honestly, I think the appeal of it is for people to feel a sense of belonging to something. People with a lot of money, obviously, who can just throw it away, and they want to feel like they're part of something. And a lot of people these days don't feel like they're part of anything. I don't know.
Let's run through the crypto and NFT stories we pulled, Sam. Obviously, people have been giving Larry David shit for being in a huge crypto ad during the Super Bowl.
Right, because these things, all the stable coins fell apart. This is, during the, not to date this, but like this is during the crypto crash, where a lot of average people who sunk, more money than they should have into this stuff are left holding the bag when these exchanges fall apart or, just plummet and have no value.
And celebrities like Gwyneth Paltrow, Matt Damon, Reese Witherspoon all appeared inexpensive, took millions plugging crypto. Reese Witherspoon was like saying something about it being like feminist to own crypto. So we all remember that Spike Lee ad. We talked about it on this show about how yeah, Barto, what did it say exactly? It was like black communities need crypto to like uplift each other.
It was using the language of wokeness to promote crypto, which is so gross. It's so gross. The same people own crypto that have the rest of the money. Like you can't make an argument that there's anything more woke or horizontal or anything about crypto at all. And I am one of those, I'm kind of like an apologist for Spike Lee a little bit. Like I try, because he's done a lot of really good art, but oof, that was pretty gross.
I seem to remember
it's not the only, gnarly thing he's done,
Yeah, I seem to remember the line from him being like, old money was, racist and sexist, and it's for old white men, whereas new money is, diverse and it's like authentic and all. It was
show
very,
me the
like you
guys
said,
who own
using
the most crypto.
I know, and actually, like if you look at it, stocks are more democratically owned than crypto. Like a wider swath of people have stocks than like the people who hold the people who hold crypto. It's overwhelmingly rich people because they're the only people who are willing to throw away money on this nonsense.
Right.
And proponents of it are guys like Michael Saylor and like who's like literally a billionaire.
Yep.
I feel like let's just keep going. I feel like I have to mention, we've done an Epstein episode before. Lost in all the news today, and it's always when there's a million things going on. Kevin Spacey was charged with 4 counts of sexual assault in the UK. I mean,
about fucking time.
What the hell were they waiting for?
I guess this means I'm not getting my annual birthday video on Christmas Eve of him being terrifying.
Are you a Christmas baby?
I am a Christmas baby, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Christmas Eve.
December 24th.
Christmas Eve.
But
wow.
For like a few years there, he stopped doing it this year, I think, but he had, or last year, he would release like one of those cryptic videos where he'd talk like Frank Underwood from the House of Cards show and be like, and have, like a mug with the Queen of England on it or whatever, like all that like little, I don't know, just references in the videos that are like conspiracy theorist bait and therefore tickle my third eye. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, his whole deal since he got called out has been, I've tried to distance myself from like thinking about all of that because it makes me feel so wackadoo. But yeah, his whole path, just that he's been walking around and basically doing whatever the hell he wants, and like all these people who have brought charges against him in the past are just dead now, and he's just, I mean, I guess, good that he is maybe going to face some repercussions for this, possibly, perhaps.
Apparently,
But-
I think it's like if he doesn't go to the UK, like they can't like extradite him there or whatever.
Oh, I
So-
assumed he was there and they arrested him.
No,
Oh no.
no.
Oh.
It's I don't know. It's just one of those stories where you're like, well, okay, guess nothing's gonna happen. Charged with 4 counts. The charges relate to 2 alleged incidents in 2005 and another 2 in 2008 in Gloucester, Western England in 2013, and a further incident in Gloucester, Western England in 2013.
It's pronounced Gloucester.
Spacey is not currently in England or Wales, and the charges cannot formally be applied until he enters one of those countries.
Ugh.
Yikes.
Well, let's get him over there. Take
Yeah.
him on a little trip.
All right, real quick, we have to talk about the Barto, did you read the story in Forbes about the potential George W. Bush assassination?
You know, I read a little bit of the story in Forbes, and then I read some other stories about the story in Forbes. But yeah, I know about the guy who the FBI informant flew to fucking Texas so that he could go around and take pictures of George Bush's house, and then they arrest him for it. And what did they say? He was connected to ISIS, right? It was an ISIS
That was the line.
plot.
Yeah, so the headline could be ISIS plotting to assassinate George W. Bush in Dallas. Everyone in fucking like left ironic Twitter was like, well, now if you search George Bush Dallas, yeah, like it was really like coming up before that George Bush assassinated John F. Kennedy or something. Like,
Yeah.
really fucking, the SEO was really feeding that to the public.
And
So I thought
what's-
that was funny. Like, I was like,
sounds,
Go
it is fun. It's hilarious. Sorry to cut you off. It sounds fun, like insane. I was trying to explain it to like my mother-in-law, and I just realized I was like, I sound like a crank, but this is not even the first time they've done this. Like the FBI,
we used to read about how Robert Mueller would like, basically like well, I'm trying to find I want to say honeypot, but there was no like sex involved, but it was like, he would like
You'd still
lure
use honeypot.
these disaffected Muslim guys to say they were going to commit a crime and then arrest them and act like they foiled terrorism. And it's like, you're just creating like, this is just creating a story, and it's nothing.
Do you
new.
remember the plot to abduct like the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer?
Yes.
And then like basically the FBI was like making it happen for them, more or less. Like they take people who are
1%.
open to this.
1% of all terrorist attacks foiled since 9/11 have been plots that would have existed without the FBI. 1% of them. Like it's completely, every single time, again, lots of these people, I'm sure, have hate in their hearts or something like that. And but lots of them are mentally ill. Lots of them are just completely disaffected, and but most of them have had zero resources to accomplish the things that they were arrested to do, and wouldn't have any of those resources without the FBI. And then the problem, and then we have this thing where everything that does happen that's real, and tangible, like the Buffalo shooting, for instance, you have all these freaks coming out of the woodwork and like talk about how it's a false flag, it's a false flag, it's a false flag. Here's the reasons why. And so you obscure the fact that things like that actually do occur, like the Draw Muhammad thing, which was a shooting that not even it wasn't even an FBI informant egging him on. It was FBI agents egging him on, and there was an FBI agent present at the shooting itself. And when you say that, you sound like a crank, because everyone else talking, in almost every other instance, if you're talking like that, you are kind of a crank. But yeah, like all of these things are made up, and occasionally, whether or not the Draw Muhammad one, they just didn't want to stop it or were unable to, is kind of unclear to me. But it becomes kind of, obviously this guy taking pictures of George Bush's house wasn't dangerous, but occasionally it gets to the point where it could get kind of dangerous, and it's kind of horrifying that the FBI creates these and then just tears them down at the last second.
Reports suggest that not only like the FBI gave him a cell phone, paid for his hotel and flight, gave him tens of thousands of dollars. Like, what the fuck? Where's that come from? For a fake immigration scam, drove him to Bush's home, library, and office. They created this entire plot using 2 informants. Like, I don't know who the original tweeter on that is. Sorry. It's there's no story here other than like they literally tried to make this shit happen.
Someone could get hurt, like someone who I actually care about, not even George Bush. An innocent bystander who I care about more than George Bush could have gotten hurt.
There's servants working on the Bush compound. Like,
they got staff. Like, they don't need all that.
Trevor Aronson. Did either of you read The Terror Factory?
No.
Really excellent book. It's just about the FBI's. It's called Inside the FBI's Manufactured War on Terror, and it's just like a pretty. Trevor Aronson, he was like an Intercept dude. I think he still writes for the Intercept. But they did there's a lot of things wrong with the Intercept, but they do some things really, really well. And one of the things they do really, really well is cataloging FBI involvement in busted terror plots. And his book about that is excellent if you don't have any other like knowledge about how this functions. But
I will be reading that one.
Yeah, it's great.
So I think we get on that. Let's get into like some of the greatest thing we prepped for during this. The thing that was probably the most fun.
Speaking of spooks making stuff up.
So we watched the three of us watched the Law and Order episode about Havana Syndrome. The original Law and Order was brought back. They canceled it, but then they brought it back, and Anthony Anderson, I guess, had nothing to do, so they brought his character back. Sam, I mean, do you want to just give a quick rundown? Until I feel like there's like pre-Havana Syndrome revelations and then post in that episode, you know?
Yeah, I started off the episode and I was like, I think I must have picked the wrong one, because it starts off like exactly. No, I literally was like Googling it multiple times, like, Law and Order Havana Syndrome episode, and making sure I had the right one, because it starts off just kind of like any other Law and Order episode. We have a corporate woman working. She's the person who's going to get murdered, obviously. But she's the CFO of like a big company, and she's the CFO of basically like if Elon Musk had just one company that instead of like a million dumb ones. And like it was just like Musk Corp. It's like the equivalent of that. They literally say that, which is one of my favorite elements of shows for the lay person, I would say. Like, I don't know, shows for I want to say shows for dumb people, but it's kind of mean. But like they explain the references for you in shows like this, and they do that later on. They're like, he's basically Elon Musk. So she works for basically Elon Musk. She's the CFO. She's working late on her computer in her home. She unlocks her door when there's a knock on it. She says like, "Oh, it's you." And then it immediately cuts to, Anthony Anderson and I don't know, the white guy whose name I can't remember, whatever that actor is, showing up and being like, this woman was strangled in her home. They find residue under her fingernails showing that she fought back, and they're able to get a sample from that. And then we find out over the course of it that there's one guy who's like a consultant, like an accounting consultant, who works with her closely on a big deal that, the Musk Corporation or whatever is working on, where they're going to buy like a solar energy company for, hundreds of millions of dollars or something. Clearly this all takes place in the fantasy world that is Law and Order. But either way, the original suspect is like someone who works for the solar energy company, which we find out was actually not going to be bought, and there was a huge reversal in the the deal to buy for Musk Corp or whatever to buy this company, and this guy Fingers instead, he says he saw the consultant from the accounting firm leaving her apartment, and they, of course, our dogged detectives show up at his house, and he folds instantly. He's clearly like super guilty.
Yeah, classic. Like, all right, we're about a third to halfway through the episode. Okay, we got our guy. What's
Right.
his story?
We got to start the order. The law is done. We got to get to the order.
Exactly.
The police served honorably and did their job successfully and without incident.
So they bring him in, and this is where it goes completely off the rails. They start having this guy acting crazy all the time, and they reveal that he worked for the Department of State. And as soon as I saw him, as soon as he mentioned that he worked for the Department of State, I was like, okay,
I almost like
right
sat up
episode.
and cheered. I was like,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I saw when they went into his office, they had the little folded flag in a frame, and I'm like, I got the right episode.
And
This
he
is
also
the State
says it
Department.
because he says it because it's a show for dumb people. He's like, you see that? I used to work for the Department of State.
Yeah.
So okay, let's so then there's an outburst in the courtroom. It's his wife. What is it? Is a doctor? Is a pediatrician?
So he has
that might have jumped ahead there.
The first person they put on the stand is the original suspect, who's the guy who works for the solar energy company that Musk Corp was going to buy. He seems very credible and checks out, and the jury seems to believe him. And then out of nowhere, the accounting guy jumps up and is like, you killed her, I didn't fucking kill her, like is going off, acting crazy, and has to be like escorted out of the courtroom. And then it cuts to I
want to watch I think this is right after. This is the discussion of.
So afterwards, they have a discussion. What is it? The DA and the other DA. I don't fucking know who's on these what these characters' names are.
Irrelevant.
But they're discussing what happened with the outburst and how Havana Syndrome is the cause of it.
Trying to do right.
That line, I really loved that. Like, come on, how could he be a bad guy? He worked in the State Department serving our country.
I also like that
they're all great.
They mention over and over again the Cuban embassy, and I'm like, we don't have an embassy there. We have an interest section, which is like a half-assed embassy. Like, I'm no lawyer, but this is an insanity defense that is like a Hail Mary. The equivalent of it. Like, are you fucking kidding? Like, you're gonna try this never before tried insanity to defend. Like, and they don't even begin to argue. Like in the courtroom scenes, everyone's like, yeah, he did it clearly. Like, but whether or not he should be punished for it becomes the the question. Is that because he wasn't in control of himself. He blacked out from Havana Syndrome and killed a woman.
He held her in his hand.
I was just going to say, insanity defenses hardly ever work in the most concrete of situations. They are so rare, and it's so bizarre to me to think that someone could get up and talk to this jury about a disease that maybe two of them have heard of before and be like, yeah, that's why he did it. And actually, it's fine that he did it.
It sounds like the most tinfoil hat thing ever to explain Havana Syndrome too. Like if it wasn't like the Department of State and like the CIA talking about it, it would sound like such crankery. The idea that they're just blasting people with microwaves and it like gives them a concussion. Like
it's interesting. This Law and Order, but it's this Law and Order like a trope where it's like the skeptic versus the believer, and they're not quite saying who's right, but it's like. It's kind of saying like, I think the implication is pretty clear. They're saying Havana Syndrome's real. Like that's the whole purpose of this.
Yeah, it feels like they're like someone from the government went to the Law and Order writers' room and was like, hey, we passed that bill last year, giving all that money to victims of Havana Syndrome, and everyone seems to think that was very silly. Could we do something to make them understand what Havana Syndrome is? And they're like, yeah, we're going to have him kill a guy.
Yeah, and it sounds like insane to say it that way, like, but that happens. Like the armed forces advise on like Marvel movies and shit like that.
Oh, the
Like,
Department of Defense in Hollywood there's a whole book on that. It's they're all intertwined.
Her neck for
That's the other thing I love about Law and Order. They you have to stretch your brain so much to believe that they would actually get someone like that to sit on the stand. Like a career spook would like publicly testify about this.
Yeah, under oath. Like, come on.
The deputy director of the CIA is going to show up to some murder trial. I don't fucking think so. They would say, and that they had that weird scene where the DA was meeting with the CIA director, and he was like, yeah, we're trying to get our people to get me out of this, but I don't think it's gonna work. And I'm like, what the fuck? You're the CIA, man. You can do whatever you want. That's like how, like, I'm not someone who thinks that like the CIA is like an all-powerful, all-penetrating organization, but one of the things they are really, really, really good at is not getting in trouble for anything and being able to get away with whatever they want, pretty much. So yeah. I don't know.
So all right. So the episode progresses, and then they put his wife, who's a pediatrician, on the stand. And I have the clip. Is there anything else in between that we should mention? I think that's kind of where it goes.
No, I think that's it, because now it becomes, the cat's out of the bag. They know that that the accountant guy killed the CFO of Musk Corp or whatever.
And now it's a matter of the defense. Dude.
Colin was always.
God dang it. It was the Havana Syndrome.
The Havana Syndrome the whole time.
The Havana Syndrome took her husband and ruined him. Barto, this is actually, I didn't mention this, but we're bringing in a surprise correspondent for one segment. So I'm gonna admit him into the room, but we can continue to break down that Law and Order.
Oh, excellent. Good. Yeah, I don't know. I'm a big fan of Havana Syndrome in general, both as a real thing that goes after our State Department employees, and both as a made up pretend thing that a few cranks in the government have turned into a national issue for 5 years or whatever.
Yeah, I want to believe in Havana Syndrome because if the idea of that, like all the non-aligned countries collaborated and made like a microwave weapon that the US Army couldn't replicate, like they tried to replicate it and they couldn't do it without having a generator like the size of a semi hooked up to it, apparently. The idea that like the Cuban military, which like probably spends like, I don't know, the budget for like one base in the US.
A microwave can't do this. Like what? No. That's just like not what a microwave does. A microwave,
dude. These guys have indigestion. It's not like they're like not like like it's not.
Yeah, the symptoms that they reported are anything.
It's real, and I have it.
Okay.
All right, hold on. Come here. We got Jack Phinney joining us, old pal. You're saying you're a victim of the Havana Syndrome?
Yeah, I've one of the first, patient 0.
Oh shit.
So are you, what are the symptoms?
Malaise, general dysphoria, but still trucking. It's been like 10 or 12 years now.
I know in the State Department you like murdered a Caribbean village, so that probably has nothing to do with your
it's water under the bridge type of thing.
The real issue is this like buzzing noise, general sense of ennui that results from it.
So, our listeners obviously know what the hell we've been talking about, but Jack has just joined us. So we're breaking down an episode of Law and Order about Havana Syndrome that we checked out. And it definitely seems to contend that the syndrome is like going, like, it seemed to me like almost like a warning, like there's going to be a Havana Syndrome defense coming, like murder, like, because I don't know, Jack has legal expertise, so I don't know, an insanity defense based on Havana Syndrome is now more credible given that it has appeared on television.
So I'm a little behind on the worldwide Havana Syndrome discourse. Where are we as a society collectively? Have we agreed that this is a thing that's real and that I don't know the Cuban government is capable of doing. That's obviously
could-
absurd, but is that where we are?
Yeah, Barto, what's going on?
I could answer that. So basically all of our intelligence agencies have said, no, actually, it sounds like some sort of mass hallucination that our guys are going through. But the federal government, and particularly Senator Gillibrand and Marco Rubio, who are also the two senators most concerned with UFOs. So I don't know what's going on. But they have made such a stink about it that the federal government is very much like Havana Syndrome real. And the New Yorker is doing all it can to push it along. But I don't know what the heartbeat of America itself is.
Gentlemen,
feeling
do I have a treat for you? The 60 Minutes clip. We're about to
understand
we're about to hear what the
this
sound
is so
actually
good.
that the sound does not cause the injury. It
Oh
is a
no, they're gonna play
byproduct,
it.
like the
They're gonna
sound
play
of a
it.
Careful,
gun,
boys.
which is not what does the harm. Here's what he recorded. The injured officials we spoke with said the
Okay, I gotta bust in here real quick as the resident person who has actually been to Cuba before.
Yeah.
It's in the Caribbean. It's in the tropics. There's tons of bugs. What are you smoking? Like, obviously it's just a bug. I don't know why they have brain lesions. I'm not an expert on why, like this.
They don't.
Yeah. Or they have, well, they,
don't.
I heard
You know what-
that, like
you know what
people
that
saying they have
sound-
lesions on their ear or something like that, but it sounds
No.
fake as fuck.
That is fake as fuck. Whoever told you that is lying to you. They don't have lesions on their ears.
Good to know.
You know what that sound reminded me of? You know, like 10 years ago, there was this thing that went around called binaural beats. And this was like a YouTube trend.
Is it
and
like eye
was this, like,
dozers?
it was this trend where like they would play like these frequencies in your ear and they would say like this mimics the effect of LSD or this mimics the effect of some other psychoactive chemical, and people would listen to it and be like, oh man, really tripping out on this MP3 file, which is what this sounds like.
Like a precursor to ASMR in a way, I guess.
But the Biden administration is putting money towards this. They're like, this is like we must do something about this.
Yeah, it's very fucking weird because you know how when I think about microwave weapons attacking people, I think of people getting gang stalked because the gang stalked community is furious that the troops are getting reparations for this and they are not. Like if you go on like their subreddits and stuff like that, they are mad that they're not
they want
taken
access
seriously.
to the big pot of money for the Havana Syndrome.
Yes. And
Interesting.
yeah,
It's just going to the spooks.
And it's just going to the spooks for being gang stalked by Cubans or Russians or whomever. But it's wacky sci-fi stuff. I don't know.
So we'll continue to follow the progress of the syndrome, and I'm happy we watched that Law and Order because it really it opened my eyes to a very dangerous thing that our brave State Department officials are facing.
No, but I think, Daniel, I think you're right, or maybe it was Barto who said this, that like it's not implausible that some DOS person went to Law and Order and was like, we kind of want people to think this about Havana Syndrome, this being that it's real. Because I feel like the average person who's not like kind of online.
The show's been out for like 30 years. They need fucking plot lines. Just give me something.
That's also true, I'm sure. But like there is like, I could see it being like, we need people to like think that this is real. Can you help us out with that? Because it is treated like Price loses for apparently like all the I don't watch Law and Order, but apparently he has that DA has like a huge following, and this was his first loss. And so I mean, you are supposed to take away from it that it's about as plausible as anything else that Havana Syndrome exists. And I don't think that like an average Law and Order viewer would necessarily think that without this. But I don't know, maybe the average Law and Order viewer is having all kinds of weird shit pumped into their brain already. So this just like is like water off a duck's back. But
who's watching Law and Order? Is that like
I watched an episode maybe in 2020 because John Waters was on it, and he was the owner of a OnlyFans-esque site called Sugar Fap.
Look, what I'm going to say about that is at some point when your show's been on the air for longer than like All My Children, you need material. So you take what you can get, including John Waters, Sugar Fap, Havana Syndrome.
Oh, that sounds like a joy.
Well, we watched the student activism one too, I feel like, for this show.
Yeah, we watched. It was like some like dreadlocked guy who's like obviously the criminal, like he like works at Starbucks and like.
I watched that one too. That was.
I think it was
wacky.
the Antifa episode.
Yeah. Who killed like a right-wing provocateur.
Yeah, like a Tommy.
I don't remember what the
if I remember correctly, which is just I haven't heard that name in fucking 3 years. Like what happened to her?
She's still around.
Okay.
She's still doing stuff. Yeah, I forget where, but she unfortunately it's still around.
I got the barriers up now. All right, we're gonna close the show. The reason why Jack was brought in here is he's a bit of an expert. But before we go into this absolute horse shit that Elon Musk shared, I feel like we have to talk about the Musk allegations and just the general what seems to be going on with Tesla. Sam, I mean, what do you think is the latest on the man?
So the allegation is, well, part of it is like basically, I mean, it's not even really an allegation because it happened. He paid like 250 grand in hush money to a flight attendant who says that he exposed himself to her. And his response to that was legendary. It was like, "Oh yeah, you've seen my dick. Name 3 weird things about it." Like, he literally said, like, she should be able to notify, identify,
name a scar or a
distinctive.
freckle or anything. It's like,
or a
how many
tattoo.
scars are on your penis?
It would have been really great if she had come back and been like, "Yeah, actually, he has like, like the 6ix9ine tattooed on his. He has like the Tekashi 6ix9ine face tattoos all over his like wang," and then he's like, "Ah, shit, you got me." That would have been good, but I don't know. I feel like he was trying to get ahead of those allegations, not even allegations, that story coming out by saying that it's because he's a free thinker and like the Democrats are coming for him. I think he had a tweet that he was like, "I'm going to vote Republican now because I believe in them more than the Democrats."
I believe the same day, and the timeline suggested that was in between the time they'd asked him for comment on the sexual harassment article. Like he's like, "I guess I'm a Republican now."
Yeah, he also had a response that was like this is going to happen to me all the time, obviously. Well, why even believe this story? There'll be others. He's not had a good response to it because, as we'll get into, he's a dummy on basically every level.
Barto, I got to go to you because I've seen you talk about this online. Like, I don't know, just what are we like, how seriously should we take Musk? Like, is this just kind of like a joke? Like is this like a distraction?
I mean, I don't know if it's a distraction. I mean, he's just, it seems like he's lost like a third of his wealth over the last few months. I don't know.
Sam, is there any way to check that the
true.
Tesla stock, but how much it's gone down? I feel like that's been in the news.
Like,
I
don't know
to get some numbers.
I don't know how much of that he owns. I don't know exactly how this all works, but it
and apparently
seems like
doesn't that affect the Twitter deal thing. Like, isn't it?
Right, because the only way his wealth is mostly in Tesla's absurdly overinflated stock price. Tesla has market cap that's like bigger than like every other car company put together, which doesn't make any sense because obviously, like, how are you a bigger car company than GM? I don't know. But yeah, apparently like 2-3 weeks ago, Tesla's stock price crashed like really hard. It was like it was down 6% in one day. And since then, I think it's been steadily continuing its decline. And of course, this could jeopardize the Twitter deal where he wants to buy Twitter for $44 billion. And the only way he can raise that kind of money, one of my finance friends was saying basically like he's maxing out all of his credit cards to try to do this. And part of the credit cards he's trying to max out is, his huge amount of Tesla stock, a huge amount of money that is represented by that. So it falling could jeopardize the Twitter deal. I've also heard people say that like he probably never actually wanted to buy Twitter in the first place. He just wanted to make a big,
Also, there was a big racial discrimination lawsuit with like I don't know if it was a class action, but it was like a lot of black people, alleged racist practices at Tesla. So around that same time, so I don't know, maybe he was just trying to get some other Googles that weren't about that. But he has shared his Elden Ring. What do you call this, Jack? Is it a load? Like what is the term?
Yeah, I think you would call it a build.
A build.
So
let's explain. What am I seeing here?
Okay.
And this is also for our listeners too. So maybe give everyone a sense here.
I'm so glad someone is explaining to me what I'm looking at.
Barto, I have no idea anything about this game. Sam messages me about it all the time, and I'm like, just talk to Jack because I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I got you guys. All right, so look, the backdrop on this, and if you guys don't play Elden Ring, right, this is a new game that came out. It's a spiritual successor to the Dark Souls games that have been around for a long time, which used to be mainly for nerds, but this one a lot more people got into, especially because George R.R. Martin's name was attached to it, and now you've got hopeless fools like Elon Musk trying their hand. So what you're looking at here and what Elon Musk shared in this game, you have a character like in most other games, and your character's fighting dragons and monsters and stuff like that. And so he has posted the equipment that his character is carrying around and the levels that he's leveled up in his character. So your character, you can level up how much health they have, how much endurance they have, how strong they are, how good the spells they can do are. And I'd call it a build, and this is what Elon Musk has voluntarily posted on Twitter for us all to mock.
Yeah, he's a big part of Elon Musk's, I think, his desire for attention and a certain kind of validation from like nerds. I mean, it's very like Reddit-y and like Rick and Morty fan-esque. I don't know. So I mean, Jack, let's break down what he's got. I don't even know. Okay, so the first thing I notice, staff is in the right hand, his wizard staff, which is unusual, but not like a deal breaker. The next, he also has the often mentioned Moonveil katana, which like everyone spams in player versus player in Elden Ring.
He got that from Reddit, for sure. He got that from Reddit.
Yeah, it's very Reddit-y to use that. He also has the Radon armor, which is also very Reddit-y. Radon is a boss that you meet midway through the game. Very memorable boss fight. I believe like the creator, Hidetaka Miyazaki, said today or yesterday that Radon is his favorite boss in the game. So he has that. Jack, you noted that he has awful fashion souls though, because he has like the full Radon set, but the crown is a glintstone crown. Which can you explain to the fans like glintstone crown?
Yes.
Is that the thing with the two heads?
That's the thing with the two heads. It looks kind of like a Burger King. It looks
fucking stupid, man.
Yeah, it looks kind of like a Burger King mask.
It looks like Burger King guy.
The Sneak King.
Now, when Elon posted this build, he said that he was going for sort of a mage, so like a wizard type character that can cast spells, because you got kind of a couple of different ways to skin the cat in terms of how you want to approach this game. You can be a knight that carries around a sword. You can be a wizard that casts spells. If you're, I'm going to get canceled for this one, but if you're a complete wussy, you spend the game spamming spells at monsters instead of getting good and carrying a sword around. So obviously Elon Musk spends his game carrying a wand around and because he's afraid to go near the enemies.
Is this a strength build advocacy group here?
Yes, 100%. So the Burger King crown, I mean, it does enhance the effectiveness of his spells. So on some basic level, it makes sense from a utilitarian perspective. But what he's paired it up with is, from a fashion perspective, it's unforgivable.
Yeah, I would agree.
What is this turtle ornament I'm seeing?
So Jack, you called this a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. So the green turtle talisman makes you recover your stamina more quickly. But you can see on the next screenshot, his endurance is like more or less.
Oh, sorry.
baseline.
Yeah, let me know if you want me to
It's
switch
23.
over.
Yeah, let's talk about this because this is actually the heart of the issue here.
Right. So let's start from the top. Level 111.
So he's played a lot.
He's played a lot.
How many hours is that?
Or he did one of the things where that's I don't know.
200, 150? Yeah. Significant.
Yes. It's like by the end of the game,
doesn't he
you're
work
like
100 hours a week? Isn't that
That's what he says, right?
No, that's what all the
grinding
reply guys
levels
are
on
saying.
Elden Ring, for sure.
Yeah. They all the reply guys have been like, "Wow, sir, it's amazing that you have the time to do this and also be a brilliant, businessman or whatever." But my personal theory is like this build is so shitty. I'm like, there's no way you got this far without either staying in one location and just farming runes by like killing a lot of low-level enemies to build up your level, or you can just go online and pay someone to like summon you to their world and they'll drop you runes. So that he might have done that. There might be some juicing going on here.
Listen, do you think there isn't some fucking schmuck at Tesla who was like, oh, Elon, here, I'll give you rune. Like please let me
exactly.
let me help you beat this game easy instead of actually playing it. Can you explain to me
I think let's talk about the heart of the issue with this. Why everyone's really making fun of this, which is what Sam was just talking about, which was what Dan brought up, the green turtle thing. And we're looking at, and now this screen reveals what's the real problem with it. And really, with the reason everyone is roasting Elon Musk to high heaven. In this game, one of the things that you need to do is dodge away from the bad guys, right? And it's a hard game. That's what these games are famous for. They're really tough. And your dodges need to be really on point in order to get away from the enemies. And when you dodge, your guy rolls. He just kind of like a ninja roll. He rolls on the ground to get away from the enemy. And if you're wearing too much stuff on your character, you get what's called a fat roll. And that means your character will roll so slowly, it will look like a rock moving in slow motion. Your controller, the vibrator on it, will make a big ka-chunk noise. You'll get no iframes, meaning you haven't effectively dodged at all, and you'll just get absolutely hammered by the boss. And in previous Dark Souls games, they didn't even tell you when you had when you were over equipped, but in this game they were kind about it, and they did.
Yeah, that's why it says heavy load down.
Yeah, which is where it says heavy load at the bottom of the screen. Elon is voluntarily fat rolling, which makes the game almost completely unplayable. Really, the point of having the fat roll in the game is to tell any thinking player, you've got too much equipment on. Either you need to level up your endurance or you need to take some of your stuff off so that you can play this game. It's to balance it out so you can't put all the good stuff on your character at once without making them stronger. And Elon, he's put a ton of levels into this character and could absolutely not be fat rolling around, and he is. And so I don't know.
Sorry, just if you're fat rolling, wouldn't the game take forever?
Yeah, I don't know how he's playing this.
That's why I'm like, he didn't get to 111 on his own, because I'm like, there's no way. By that point, you have to win some pretty tough fights. Yeah. I mean, he's wearing the Radon armor. I don't see how he beat. Unless he cheesed Radon really hard.
I'm just gonna come out and say it, Barto. Maybe you're with me here, just as like someone who's not actually played this game. Is he fucking pretending to play the game? Like is this just? Do you think he actually plays this thing?
So the thing, knowing just through osmosis of what's going on through this game, the reaction, I wish I remember who said this, but that stuck with me the most when people were talking about this was someone saying that it shows a profound lack of curiosity for how the systems of this game function. And for someone who's supposed to be like this incredible engineer who's like thinking outside the box all the time, like this is one of those examples that just says like that's bullshit. That he just decided to like pile everything on top of itself and just be like I'm going to grab as much stuff as I can, just sort of how he functions in life.
Yeah, I would agree with that because this is
Agreed.
the ultimate kind of game that you geek out about. Like if you're actually like this, engineer type like nerd, there's a lot of like people get really into this and they'll be like, if I, a level up to this, and then they'll do the calculations and be like, there's a soft cap. Like if you level your vigor up to a certain point, you get less increase to your health the more with additional levels, because that's the game kind of telling you, don't rely too heavily on having like a huge health bar. Put your stats into some other stuff so you can not get hit as often, or you can finish off bosses more quickly. He shows none of that, and he's also, I can tell he's he's what Jack mentioned before. He spams spells. He has all of his stats in intelligence, which makes your sorceries stronger. It is very annoying to deal with in PvP, spell spammers, but you can't really do, I don't know, Jack, a mage build, but you can't roll effectively. If you're a mage build and you're only doing ranged attacks, you have to be dodging a lot and avoiding the boss as it gets closer to you, because in close range, you're like dead meat.
Is this the kind of stats that one could like beat the game?
I feel like speedrunners are going to try.
I can guarantee you it's going to become a new trend. Can you actually beat this game with the terrible character that Elon Musk has created is totally going to become a challenge. But look, like you guys are saying, we're looking at a table full of numbers right now, right? And so for a genius, for someone we're supposed to believe is a genius, this table full of numbers, which any thinking, curious 13-year-old, 12-year-old could master, you'd hope to see a little more. If this is the IQ or the ink blot test, we've failed resoundingly. I mean, it's really, really bad, like an F on an A+ to F scale. It's really terrible. Can we go back to the previous screen, because I want to talk about the other worst, stupidest thing I did.
Yeah, the other stupidest thing on this, I feel like I already know what you're going to say, Jack, is in that second row where the shields are in the left armament. My guy's got two nearly identical shields. Why?
What are we doing? Elon's character here. So you see in the first two rows, you see he's got 3 swords and a wand, and in the second row, he's got 2 shields. You can only take one of these things out at once, and they all are counting to making you fatter and fatter and slower and slower. And so,
I mean, once you have one shield, can another shield even give you more defense?
So you can dual wield shields if you have one shield in the left hand and one in the right hand, but he doesn't. He has both of his shields in the left hand, so he's like toggling between these two nearly identical shields.
They're identical. That's the other thing. He's toggling between the two of them. So maybe it would make sense to toggle between one thing that has certain properties and another thing that has certain properties. But here, what Elon has selected is 2 mid-range shields that are both relatively heavy with similar properties. So they're just weighing his character down to an enormous titanic weight and providing absolutely no tangible benefit.
So Dan, you got to stay on this page a little bit because there's more. I feel like
go on for as long as you want. This is one of our longest episodes of all time at this point, probably. So just keep going.
Whatever.
I mean, I could spend 3 hours if we really want to talk about
this. Is like
Barto is COVID.
Like
I feel bad.
I will leave if we talk about Elon Musk's toys for 3 hours.
We're not making it to 3 hours of this. I promise we will wrap it up. My read on this. So when he posted this, the caption he put on it was like, equipped load will be lower if fast roll is needed. I think the thing that's, besides the second shield, which is totally unnecessary, the thing that's really weighing him down is that Radon armor. You get it from one of the mid-game bosses, and it is very heavy. I had to get my character, I tried to wear it at one point with one of my characters, and I had to level my endurance really high to be able to use it without having some talisman that reduces equipment load. I think he just got it and thought he needed to slap it on to show it off. Because there's a day between when he said he was going to release this and when he actually put it up. So I think he genuinely just slapped this on saw the equipment load was messed up, or maybe he just doesn't even care and he's just been fat rolling this whole time, and then was like, and then just like wrote the caption like, oh, I take the armor off if I need to roll, which is like, you always need to roll. It's like saying, oh, I reduce my equipment load as Mario when I need to jump. Like, that's the whole point of the game, stupid. I don't know. Sorry, but to be merciful, like, the last thing I have on this is one of the things you can do in this game is summon like ghosts basically to help you fight the bosses. And the ghosts are usually enemies you find in the open world, and they will help you defeat the boss. They'll take some of the aggression off of you, but you can only use one at a time. And one of the ways you can activate them is by assigning them to your quick item bar. You have to toggle through this by pressing down on the D-pad to get to the thing you want. So usually you don't want to keep too many things in there.
One
if you
or
don't
two
need
in
them.
a tough fight. Yeah.
He has 3 different spirit ashes in there, and you can only use one at a time.
I'm looking at these 3. I'm like,
they're also dog shit summons too, I will say. Like, he's got like the skeleton bandits and like those marionette skeletons, like mid like early game ashes right there. He has 1 like legendary ash, I can tell, but he also doesn't have, I'm assuming his flasks, his like healing flasks are in the D-pad menu.
Okay, that's the last thing I've got to talk about here. Also, on the spirit summons, while I'm getting cancels for my Dark Souls opinions, this is another recourse of the weak and afraid. Okay, so if you're sitting there spamming spells and sending out ghosts to fight the boss, it's because you're afraid of the video game, which he is. Like another point, what Sam was just saying, how is this man healing? There's no flask in this quick bar. I mean, maybe it's on the new quick bar that they introduced in this game, but that's a very odd way to need to heal, because you would need to press at least 2 buttons to heal at any given time during a fight, which is way too much. Also, on top of this, that red glowing thing in the bottom of the 4th bar, that is the Radagon score seal, and it's forcing his character voluntarily to take more damage. That's what that does.
It increases your stats, but it makes you take more damage. And we don't see the healing flask. Again, he does not actually like play this game, is my read on this. So or if he does, he's dog shit and getting people level him up.
You can't roll away from the boss because you're so over encumbered and so massive. And then he's got this thing on that's making him get hurt more. It's like completely nonsense.
But, and yeah, like I guess to wrap up, like the whole thing is like the whole game is your build, more or less. Like, it's the same game over and over again, but people will play through it multiple times with different builds, because you can play differently. And like, that's like the fun. The fun is creating your character and making it like strong, able to fit your play style and make it, something you made able to go from like a lowly nobody to, the Elden Lord. But if you're like an engineering type, I would think you would enjoy that and like the mechanics of it. But like, I'm not an engineer, and I'm willing to get like a little into the weeds on this stuff because it's fun.
Absolutely.
And I can't, if I was like inclined towards this stuff, towards like science, STEM or something, I feel like it would be like an even bigger slam dunk. But yeah, just further proof that Musk is really a dummy. I don't know.
It is, as someone who's played and loved these games for a long time, it is the work of a diseased mind. It is the work of a sick man. It's inexcusable. I need no further proof about what's going on with this guy.
I'm never going to show you guys what I carry around in my bag in Skyrim. I have a feeling you're just going to tear it apart, tear me to shreds.
No, there's no way it's this bad. I guarantee it.
We need another entire episode to talk about Skyrim, I think.
Well, we will convene about video games, but we probably have to invite Andrew too.
Great.
So what do we have there, Jack?
He's got an Iron Fist Alexander, one of the living jars that you encounter in Elden Ring. These guys seem very cute. The way they get stronger is by eating dead bodies and like
it's a jar creature,
melting them down. Yeah. It is a jar with arms. Can you see the arms? And he has feet too.
This was extreme. Please don't sue me, Bandai Namco, if you see this extremely unlicensed thing that some random guy 3D printed on the internet. But it's pretty good, Sam. Right?
I like it. Yeah. I need to get some more some Elden desk toys for sure.
I mean, we've hit a lot of things tonight. You know, I think there's one thing we can agree on. This planet's gone to the hogs. Barto, anything to plug on your end?
I put out a new couple of drone songs sitting at the top of my Twitter account at El Barto Army. They're pretty good. Listen to them on Bandcamp.
Follow this man on Twitter. He's you won't be sorry. I always enjoy what you have to say.
Thanks, man.
And DM me the
too.
link to your tunes, and I will put it in the show description.
Sick.
And
Will do.
Jack, same question. Anything to plug?
I also make music, johndunn.bandcamp.com, but if you don't
spell
want
it?
John Dunn, like the poet, JOHNDONNE.bandcamp.com. But if you have better things to do with your life, I'll smoke you in Dark Souls PvP. So hit me up on PlayStation. They'll ruin you.
Sam, anything on your end?
As always, I would like to plug Ward 2 Mutual Aid. They do great work with disadvantaged people in DC. Especially after some stuff that happened this week, need funds more than ever, and it goes directly to people who need it. So if you're not in the DC area, I would ask you to donate to it. It's on Open Collective, and the link's on my Twitter at Wagstank, WAGSTANK.
We'll put it in the description of the show notes too.
It always
We'll put
goes in,
all
I
of it,
think,
so.
but gotta mention it.
Cool. Wow, we covered a lot of ground. I'm thrilled with how this turned out. Sam, any final words? Jack, sorry. Thanks for coming back on. I know you did one of the Patreon episodes, so it kind of got lost in the shuffle. Maybe I'll repost it at some point. We did like a long ass Uncut Gems commentary, which was super fun.
Sick.
Maybe it'll see the light of day at some point. Actually, I could probably just find it.
Please revive that. I think we need that for the culture.
I think I know where the files are.
For the culture.
But Jack, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you, boys, for having me. It was awesome.
And Barto, thank you so much. A repeat guest. I guess you're both repeat guests, but Barto, you're not. We've known Jack for many years. We're simply internet pals with you. So we really appreciate you taking this much time and offering your expertise on a million issues.
Oh yeah, thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you guys, and nice to meet you, Jack.
You too, Barto.
All right, we are closing out. This is Hog Planet.